Deep in the Guatemalan jungle, a limestone pyramid stands as a silent witness to history. Tourists take photos, and guidebooks highlight its mathematical and astronomical precision. But if you look closer, the steep stairs, sharp angles, and sightlines were not meant just for admiration. They served a much darker purpose. Each step of these pyramids was made for spectacle. Every stone was placed to set the stage for an act that would leave people breathless, horrified, and in awe. This was not architecture first and ritual later. The ritual was built into the architecture from the start. Today, we're peeling back centuries of myth and ignoring the romanticized division of the Maya. Because behind the pyramids, behind the mathematics and celestial alignments, there is a truth most of us are beyond ready to see. These monuments were machines of blood, meticulously engineered to turn human life into a spectacle of power, devotion, and terror. Welcome to the story of sacrifice, geometry, and the architecture of death. Behind every pyramid stood a worldview that made human death non-negotiable. The Maya mapped 3 cosmic realms onto the world around them: the heavens above, the middle world of the living, and the underworld below. To them, these weren't abstract ideas. They were blueprints. Each realm became an engineering requirement, shaping the design and purpose of every major construction. In their creation stories, the gods weren't all. They were tired. Drained from shaping the world, they left behind a cosmic debt that could never truly be paid off. And if that debt went unmet, everything was at risk. The gods would weaken. The sun might not rise. Crops could fail. Time itself could unravel. This crisis demanded cacique substitutiona, vital exchange that required not prayers, but blood. Human blood, specifically. The heart and the vitalizing essence it contained. Contemporary Maya texts are explicit. Our sprouting, our growing, our living is blood. Life force concentrated in flesh and fluid. A pyramid symbolized a sacred mountain where all 3 cosmic realms met. But plain limestone couldn't serve as that meeting point on its own. It needed life. It needed shulao, a vital essence that could only be given through sacrifice built directly into its construction. Picture the planning sessions. Priests and architects bent over their plans, tracing lines into the sand. Where did the victims climb? How many must watch? Which angles will make the spectacle impossible to look away from? How deep should the offerings be buried to bind the structure to the gods? These weren't afterthoughts. They were core design requirements, as essential as any structural calculation. By building the need for constant sacrifice into the very stone, the ruling elite secured their position as the indispensable mediators between humans and the gods for as long as the monuments stood. These temples weren't built first and consecrated later. They were designed from the very beginning with one purpose in mind: to receive human hearts at their summits. And the first place that truth surfaced was the foundations themselves. At the Moon Pyramid in Teotihuacan, a distinct civilization whose builders maintained extensive contact with Maya polities. Excavations revealed systematic patterns. Each new construction phase, beginning with Building 4, was initiated with a major sacrificial event. Multiple phases, multiple victims, each one required. The human remains tell their stories. Victims spanning from 14 to over 60 years old. Many displayed cranial modifications, flattened foreheads marking elite status, and dental decorations suggesting nobility. But oxygen isotope analysis revealed something more disturbing. Some victims showed ratios indicating foreign origins of water chemistry from distant regions, including potential Maya from the lowlands. They were captured in warfare, transported hundreds of miles, then sacrificed and buried within the pyramid's foundation as guardian figures embedded in stone. The sacrifice of these his status kept his enemy nobles, possibly even rival kings, represented the maximum value offering. By seizing and burying the vital essence of an elite captive within their own monuments, the conquering polity symbolically absorbed and neutralized rival power. Human life, especially elite life, functioned as a recognized value currency across vast Mesoamerican political spheres. These weren't random offerings. They were intentional elements of the structure itself, positioned with the same precision and purpose as the pyramid's cornerstones. You don't select just anyone for sacrifice. They have to be specific individuals selected for becoming the ultimate sacrificial victims, representing the state that are able to fulfill the function of a successful ritual dedication. Modern bioarchaeology circumvented Spanish chroniclers who inflated victim counts to justify conquest. Oxygen isotope analysis reads geography directly from bone chemistry with scientific precision. These individuals traveled vast distances specifically for sacrificial burial. Across Maya sites, a consistent pattern emerges. Hundreds of dedication caches contained human remains, along with jade, shells, and obsidian blades. A green mask represented the person in his youth, an attempt to freeze youth for eternity on his way to the underworld. These offerings were deliberately placed within the building cores, beneath the floors, and in foundation trenches. By embedding these sacrifices at a monument's inception, the Maya intimately linked the structure's identity to sacred time. But dedication was only half the cycle. Each Maya monument had a recognized lifespan, and before it could be rebuilt, it had to be properly closed through termination rituals. Termination rituals deanimated the previous construction. Floors were burned black. Cache objects were smashed, releasing the spirit from the space. Then, human remains were placed on top. Before rebuilding, each rebuilding carried the monument's story forward. Every layer tied the new structure to the old, linking past and future through the sacrifices sealed inside. This was a universal practice. In central Belize, even commoner homes were ritually terminated every 40 to 50 years, a cycle likely tied to specific calendar dates. For Nonelita Maya, this cyclical process embedded a physical historical record into their floors. Much like the monumental record-keeping of the elite stele, walls would be torn down, floors borne in, and artifacts, sometimes alongside human remains, were deposited before a new dwelling was constructed in its place. Every building, from grand temples to simple homes, was believed to have its own life, and like any living thing, it needed to be born, nourished, and eventually laid to rest through ritual and blood. Maya architects didn't accommodate sacrifice. They optimized it. The pyramidal design was clearly intentional. A steep-sided structure culminating in a small summit temple. This served as an elevated stage for executions, enhancing religious significance, dramatic effect, and public visibility. The height of the pyramid raised the ritual space closer to the heavens, linking the ruler and the offering to the gods. But that vertical distance also served a purpose on the ground. It created perfect sightlines for everyone watching below. Those monumental staircases weren't symbolic. They were designed as precise viewing angles. As a victim climbed, everyone in the plaza, sometimes thousands of people, could see every step. The architecture left no place to hide. The summit platform worked like a theater, small enough to focus every movement, high enough to project it across the entire plaza. The pale limestone made blood stand out instantly, and once the ritual was done, the steep staircase turned the fall into a brutal display, each body tumbling downward and marking the stone for everyone to see. Did you know the Maya designed their pyramids and temples for a specific, chilling purpose? Let's talk about the chalk mill, a stone figure found at sites like Chichén Itzá. Its unique angled surface wasn't just for decoration. It was an ergonomic tool for ritual sacrifice, giving the priest the perfect leverage. This design, used for centuries, shows just how deeply this practice was built into their architecture. Even the steep pyramid steps had a ritual function. The Papove, the Mayan creation myth, describes captives being bound and rolled down these stairs. The architecture wasn't a backdrop, it was an active participant in the ceremony. The famous Maya ball courts weren't just for sport either. They were ritual stages where sacred games ended in sacrifice. Right next to the great ball court at Chichén Itzá stands the Tampanli, a massive rack displaying the skulls of defeated players. Carvings on the court walls even show a player's head transforming into the rubber ball. The entire space, from acoustics to viewing angles, was designed as a cosmic theater, reenacting myths and culminating in a ritual offering. Play wasn't separate from the sacrifice. It was the whole point. This message was reinforced everywhere. Monumental sculptures of captive figures at sites like Palenque were strategically placed to make visitors feel as if they were standing among the defeated. It was a constant reminder of their dual role as both warrior and potential offering. This architectural design was a form of emotional engineering, using sight lines, sound, and space to shape how people felt during these intense rituals. This created what anthropologists call a ritual economy, a system that fueled amazing cultural achievements but also held the seeds of its own destruction. Building these massive monuments required huge labor forces commanded by a powerful elite. But these projects were more than just construction. They were tools for maintaining power. Leaders staged elaborate ceremonies inside these new temples, tying their authority directly to the cosmic order. The buildings justified the rituals, and the rituals justified the buildings, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of power. There was a psychological element, too. These intense, public rituals created a powerful shared experience, strengthening community bonds and offering a sense of collective control and unity in a harsh world. Imagine standing in a crowded plaza, drums echoing off the stone walls, the air thick with incense and tension. You watch a procession climb the steep steps. The architecture isn't just framing the scene, it's precisely shaping your emotions and your view. This cycle of building grander monuments for more dramatic offerings pushed Maya society to become incredibly complex. But this system was fragile. It only worked as long as resources were stable. When long droughts and food shortages began to bite, the cosmic contract felt broken. Did Maya leaders adapt? No. They doubled down on ritual. As crops failed, worship of the rain god Chak intensified, and they turned to their most dramatic ceremony: human sacrifice, hoping to force the gods to respond. Even though they had brilliant engineers who created advanced water systems, their rigid political structure, built on ideology, prevented them from turning to practical solutions. The monuments that once signaled prosperity now became stages for desperate, escalating ritual demands. Ritual became a substitute for effective governance, draining the very resources people needed to survive and speeding up the collapse. For decades, many scholars wanted to believe in a peaceful, intellectual Maya, completely different from the aggressive Aztecs. They were brilliant astronomers, after all, who charted the stars, predicted eclipses, and understood the cycles of Venus with incredible precision. But modern excavations have shattered this romantic idea. Archaeologists have found hundreds of sacrificial deposits across major sites, with patterns repeated over centuries. The evidence is clear. The same society that mapped the cosmos also practiced systematic human sacrifice. These were not separate impulses. They were two sides of the same worldview. Ritual sacrifice wasn't a spontaneous act of violence. It was a structured political and moral tool used to maintain social order. Public ceremonies on these grand stages demonstrated that rulers were fulfilling their duties to the gods. The architecture amplified the spectacle, turning each act into a powerful display of state authority for thousands to witness. Their intellectual brilliance and their systematic severity weren't a contradiction. They were intertwined. So next time you see a picture of Tikals, pyramids rising from the mist, or walk through the silent ruins of Palenque, remember what you're really looking at. You're standing on monuments that were, from their foundations to their summits, designed to demand and shape human tribute. Try to walk those steep steps yourself. Feel how the angle throws you off balance. Now imagine climbing them with your hands bound, exposed to the crowd below. The architecture doesn't just hold the ritual, it is asterisk the ritual. Every step, every movement was built into the stone. Architecture is never neutral. It reflects the values, fears, and priorities of its creators. The Maya didn't just build temples and then decide to use them for sacrifice. From the very beginning, they designed these structures as permanent altars. Their worldview, their science, and their rituals were inseparable. The question these ancient stones ask us is not just what the Maya built, but what we choose to see. Do we admire their math and ignore the cost? Or do we accept that human brilliance and harsh reality often exist side by side, shaping civilizations in ways we'd rather not admit? These monuments aren't just relics, they're warnings carved in limestone, reminding us that our own greatest achievements always conceal a cost, a hidden burden buried in their foundations. The Maya left their truths in stone. The question is, are we willing to read them? Thanks for watching, and if you found this interesting, please subscribe for more.